Hey there, you guys. Welcome back. Today I wanted to talk to you about the bird's nest fern. It's probably a familiar one to you. It's not an uncommon plant. Usually it's sold in the garden centers. Well, I've seen them everywhere. Um, Usually they're sold in either a 2.5 or a 3-inch pot, maybe in a 4-inch size pot, and they look beautiful. They're just lovely. They don't really resemble a fern at all. And I think that's why I like them. And they seem to be a little bit hardier than a regular fern. They still want higher humidity, so in that they're the same. But these guys can tolerate a little bit of drying between waterings, which is nice. They like. Well, let me get into the care. Let's start from the top. These guys are epiphytes, so like the staghorn fern, are very similar to the staghorn fern. They grow in amongst the trees, in crotches of trees. They can grow on the ground. They'll grow up the side of things. Yeah, in that sense, they can be mounted, like you can do with a staghorn fern, and that's kind of cool. I don't know that I'd do that with this, but yeah, it's an interesting option if you lived in a humid area, and especially if you can grow them outside. My goodness, why wouldn't you put them in a tree and you could spray them with a hose, or let the nature take its course and rain on it. So in that, it makes them a little bit easier, in my opinion. These plants can get quite big in the wild, but in captivity, in our homes, generally they don't get to be that big. So the fronds in the wild can get up to like 5 feet long, and that's pretty impressive. To see something like this growing up to 5 feet long, oh wow, that would be a really big spread. If each frond was about 5 feet long, that'd make the plant almost 10 feet across. That would be amazing. If they were, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So in the home, they generally get to be maybe 2 feet tall. But if you're lucky enough to be able to grow them outside, they're going to get bigger than that. They will produce spores like regular ferns, and the spores will develop on the backs of the leaves, kind of along the midrib, maybe an inch or two out from the midrib. And yeah, I'm not going to discuss how to propagate spores, but maybe in coming videos when these start to develop them, they develop them on mature leaves, so it'll be a while yet. I think this plant, I've only had this plant for a few months, and it's still looking beautiful. And yeah, let's get back to the care. I get sidetracked so easily. So we talked about the leaves. The leaves are going to get to be maybe 2.5 feet tall in a nice specimen. And these plants like it warm. So they like it between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe that's 20 to 25 Celsius. So average home environment is perfect for these guys. When I was looking, it didn't say anything about humidity. It says that they like it humid, but it didn't give a humidity range. Mine are doing beautifully. I don't have any browning on the leaves. I'll show you some other ones in a second. My house doesn't really go below 40% humidity. So if you're going below 40, you might get some burning or some crispy leaf edges. But generally speaking, my humidity is around 50%, and higher in the summertime. In the summertime, I think we're into the 60s. And yeah, I'm actually surprised that my humidity in the house stays quite as high as it does, because I use a gas fireplace in the wintertime, and it's got the forced air heat. So it's typically it would be drier. In the grow room, it's more humid because I got humidifiers, but I don't in the rest of the house. So anyway, likes humidity, does better with humidity, and it does tolerate drying down infrequently. It likes to be evenly moist on a regular basis. It doesn't want to be soggy, but if you let it dry a little too long, it will bounce back. It's quite tolerant that way, but don't just assume it's a cactus and keep it dry. Don't do that. For sunlight, it likes to be in a bright indirect location in the house. Outside, if you're lucky enough to grow it outside, it wants to be in like a dappled shade situation. They grow in the crooks of trees, so they're going to be covered by the canopy of the tree. So consider that. It's going to be a bright indirect location inside, or you can grow it in a moderate medium light. But in the house, I would always recommend bright indirect. As bright as you can without full sun. If it does get full sun, make it a morning sun. Don't make it an afternoon or midday sun. that might be a little bit too strong for it. If it gets too much light, they'll start bleaching out. So you'll be able to tell that way. They could even start to crisp up. The soil that it likes is going to be a nice organic, a rich organic soil with a larger particle size. Again, they're epiphytes. They'll either grow on rocks or they'll grow on trees. And so you're going to want to have like kind of that leaf littery kind of feel. Some peat moss with some orchid bark or coconut coir and some perlite in there. You just want it to drain really freely, but you want it to retain some moisture because, again, it doesn't technically want to dry out ever, but it doesn't want to sit in a tub of water. So, yeah, as long as it's a nice airy mix, it should be fine. I've grown it in typical potting soil before, and I haven't had much problem. And yeah, but now I like to add a little extra perlite to my mix. I just watered this morning. It was a little on the dry side. You'll see another one over here. It's actually a little discolored, and I believe that's because it was let to dry out too long. It's in a smaller pot. You'll see. And as for fertilizer with these guys, they don't really need a ton of fertilizer. So maybe a dilute fertilizer during the growing months, so like April through to September, if those are your growing months, whenever it's actively growing. Give it a weak fertilizer, maybe once a month, maybe once every couple of weeks, maybe a quarter strength every couple of weeks, or a half strength once a month, and you should be fine. They're not heavy feeders, so yeah, that is this one. Let's pick up another one. This one I've had for a while. I've had this one for at least a year, and it started off, I'll show you both. This is the one that really was suffering. Notice the difference in color of the leaves. This one has more of a staghorn, kind of a bluish tint to it. I'm not sure if this one is the same variety as the one over beside me that I just had up. I don't believe it is because I think that they're a little bit longer and skinnier. I'm not sure all the variety names of these guys. They're Asplenium nidus. I think I forgot to say that. I said bird's nest fern, Asplenium nidus. So there's a few different cultivars of these guys, and they look really cool. I'll put some photos up in a second of some of the stuff that I've seen in the garden centers. One of them today that I saw was called Hurricane, and it was pretty awesome. So yeah, this is the one that it was in need of a drink. I gave it a soak. I put it in the sink and let it soak it up from the bottom. And you'd want to try to make sure to not get any water in the rosettes. So in the very central point of the plant, it could cause crown rot. It can cause fungal diseases or fungal problems. So yeah, just avoid that. Watering from the bottom is always better, I guess, in this situation. Or just carefully water from the top. It doesn't matter. If you have free draining soil, it shouldn't matter. And then this one here is Crispy Wave. This is the one that I've been seeing a lot of around here. And as you can see, it's got that really rigid crinkle in the leaf. And I didn't really like it to begin with, but this plant has grown on me. It was maybe about this size when I got it, maybe a little bit smaller than this one. And it's grown into this one in about a year. And it's doing beautifully. I think I've got a couple of browning leaves at the very bottom, but nothing to be too concerned about. These plants, pest-wise, I haven't had too much problem with pest with these guys, but what I'm reading is like scale insect, maybe some mealybugs. Mealybugs love everything, but scale seems to get on these guys, and you just wipe them off or treat them with an insecticidal soap. I do have a video on an insecticidal soap recipe. Maybe I'll link that down below or in the card above. I don't know. Somewhere around here, you'll see a little pop-up. And yeah. Otherwise, yeah, just an insecticidal soap. If you have your own recipe, by all means. But you can even just wipe them off. They're a pain in the butt, no matter how you look at it. So yeah, these guys are one of my favorite types of ferns, like I said. And I'll post a couple of photos up right now of some of the ones that I saw in the garden centers. They're actually phenomenal plants. If you go to any conservatory, usually they're growing underneath the trees, the large palm trees and whatnot. and they're beautiful. Oh my gosh. And like I said, that one that I saw today with her that was called Hurricane had like a clockwise spin to the fronds. It was pretty incredible. I wanted to buy it, but I didn't want to spend $34 on it. I didn't like it that much. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it helped you care for the Asplenium nidus a little bit better. Let me know how you care for yours. Maybe you have a small collection of them, because they are pretty collectible. And yeah, I'd love to know more about how you look after yours. Maybe you have really, really high humidity, or maybe you have a low humidity spot and it's doing beautifully. Sometimes it doesn't so much matter about your humidity, it's the regularity of your watering. That can make a difference too. So anyway, until next time, you guys, happy growing!